Two FBI agents uncover a sinister conspiracy and discover that the government has been actively covering up a leak of a deadly alien virus. North Texas, 35,000 years ago. During a winter hunt, two cavemen notice unusual tracks leading into a cave. Inside, they light torches and navigate through the narrow tunnels, hoping to find prey. One of them stumbles upon a young woman frozen in ice, seemingly encased in a cryochamber. Before they can process this discovery, an eerie creature, unlike any animal they've encountered, attacks. The second caveman strikes the creature in the back with a sharp tooth, driving it off, but it's too late. His companion is already dead, and the survivor decides to flee. As he makes his escape, he spots a creature lying nearby and decides to finish it off. But the monster was only pretending to be weak, luring the caveman into a trap. In the ensuing battle, the man kills the creature, but the creature's black blood begins to seep into his skin, and soon, he too succumbs to death. Present day, a group of teenagers is digging at a site near their village. One of the boys, Stevie, suddenly falls into a hole. His friends, frightened, try to understand what happened. Stevie assures them that he's fine, having found an ancient human skull. He promises to keep it. As he climbs back to the surface, he hesitates, noticing a strange black liquid oozing from the ground near his feet. The liquid freezes his movements. In horror, Stevie watches as it begins to seep into his skin. When he looks up, his friends are horrified to see his eyes have turned completely black. Shortly afterward, rescue teams arrive. A few of them descend into the hole to retrieve the boy. They confirm they've found him, but then they, too, vanish without a trace. Soon, strange people arrive in unmarked trucks, just moments before a helicopter lands with doctors in protective suits. They extract Stevie from the cave and place him in a special capsule, isolating him due to the potential chemical threat. 1 week later, Dallas. FBI agents are searching a building after receiving information about a bomb that could detonate at any moment, threatening countless lives. While the other agents comb through the building with no results, Mulder and Scully head to a nearby government facility. Mulder, trusting his instincts, is convinced that the other agents are following a false lead. He asks Scully to check the roof, but the search yields no results, making her question his professional judgment. Leaving the roof, Mulder vows to make up for the wasted time and suggests grabbing a bottle of soda. On his way to the vending machine, he bumps into a suspicious man but dismisses the encounter. When he reaches the machine, he tries to buy a bottle, but it's out of order. Mulder finds this odd and inspects it, realizing it's been deliberately unplugged. Moments later, he realizes that the machine is rigged with explosives, enough to obliterate the entire government building. Trapped and unable to escape, Mulder sends an urgent message to Scully, demanding an immediate evacuation. Scully follows protocol and returns with backup. FBI agents cut open the door and enter to assess the bomb. The bomb disposal expert, Michaud, insists he can handle it and orders everyone to leave the building. Mulder feels a gut instinct that something's wrong and suggests they reconsider, but before they can act, the bomb detonates. Miraculously, Mulder and Scully escape unharmed. A few days later, the agents are summoned to FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. in the investigation hall. They're informed that the failed bomb disarmament caused the explosion of the government building, resulting in millions of dollars in damage and several casualties, including the bomb expert, 3 firefighters, and a teenager. While Scully and Mulder are certain the building was empty, they are separated and interrogated individually. Scully takes the bulk of the blame, willing to sacrifice her career. She faces the possibility of being transferred or fired, but she's unfazed. Mulder vehemently disagrees with this unjust blame, knowing he, too, played a part in the situation. Mulder is shaken by the turn of events. He's dedicated his life to investigating paranormal phenomena and solving complex, enigmatic cases. Now, it seems he might lose everything over a senseless terrorist attack with no clear suspects. The X-Files division is officially shut down, leaving Mulder to drown his frustrations at a nearby bar. He drinks heavily, oblivious to a man who's been quietly observing him all evening. At one point, Mulder decides to step outside for some air but finds the bathroom is locked. Looking for a solution, he steps into the yard and comes face to face with the stranger. The man introduces himself as Alvin Kurzweil, a scientist with confidential information about the explosion. He claims that the bodies of the firefighters and the teenager were planted at the scene, and the bomb expert intentionally let the bomb go off to cover up a far more serious crime. At first, Mulder is skeptical, but Kurzweil's story begins to make sense. Needing confirmation, Mulder decides to visit Scully late at night to tell her about his unexpected meeting with Kurzweil. Meanwhile, in Texas, the Smoking Man, a powerful businessman secretly controlling everything related to the newly discovered cave, arrives. A full-fledged research facility has been set up around the site, where scientists are studying the virus and its effects. They've made a groundbreaking discovery, but the Smoking Man is unfazed. The scientists manage to keep a fourth rescuer alive by lowering his body temperature to sub-zero levels. Technically, he's still alive, but only in the most superficial sense. His body has turned into a gelatinous mass, as inside him is an alien, feeding on his body from the inside. The alien absorbs his tissues and bones, which shocks the Smoking Man. He knew about the virus and the potential alien colonization of Earth, but things aren't going as expected. They were anticipating the aliens would turn humans into slaves, but instead, they use them as vessels to grow and reproduce. The smoking man believes that the vaccine they've developed will protect the elite and allow them to rise to the top of the new food chain. Mulder and Scully decide to get ahead of the situation and take advantage of the element of surprise. In the dead of night, they infiltrate a military hospital to examine the bodies of victims from an explosion. By deceiving a naive soldier into thinking they'd been sent by a general, the FBI agents manage to sneak into the morgue. There, they find a body that looks more like gelatin than a human form and realize they've been lied to, as no autopsy was performed and this is clearly not the result of an explosion. Scully is forced to do a more detailed examination and autopsy. While she discovers that the cause of death is a previously unknown virus, Mulder decides to head back to Washington. Mulder arranges a meeting with Kurzweil and rushes to meet the scientist, but when he arrives at the hotel, it's surrounded by police. They inform him that Kurzweil is a maniac who sold adult videos and must be arrested. Kurzweil has vanished, and no one knows where he is, but he's hiding nearby to meet with Mulder. The scientist realizes the government is hiding the truth about the aliens and will do anything to eliminate him because he knows too much. Kurzweil reveals that there's an emergency agency that serves as a cover for something much larger. They could take down the US government and impose martial law, while all the viruses they claim to be fighting are merely fabricated as a smokescreen. Realizing the situation is far more complicated than it seemed at first, Mulder decides to return to Dallas. Scully is supposed to join him, but before she can, she has to hide out in the military hospital. Aware they've been exposed, she takes refuge in the morgue's refrigerator, narrowly avoiding an encounter with armed guards. The next morning, Mulder and Scully meet up at the department where they're piecing together evidence from the explosion. Among the clues, they find ancient fossils that shouldn't be in a government building. It turns out, someone made a mistake and accidentally brought them from elsewhere. Scully examines the fossils and realizes they're a critical lead that points them in the right direction. Meanwhile, a mobile research base with scientists is extracting the bodies of several test subjects from the cave and placing them in special containers. As the scientist hurries to pack up and leave the village, he notices that the rescuer, who had been used as a vessel for the alien embryo, is now empty. The scientist prepares a vaccine to protect against the alien, but the creature proves to be too fast and strong. It injures him in the secret lab, but he manages to inject himself and kill the monster. He asks his colleagues for help, but safety protocols take priority, and he is buried alive. Soon, the smoking man calls an elderly businessman to inform him that Konrad Struckholt, who had been in Tunisia, is about to arrive in the US. He demands that everyone involved in the secret of potential alien colonization gather immediately. The next morning, society's elite assembles in London to discuss the crisis and possible solutions. With new biological factors and emerging complications, many fear that the situation could spiral out of control, potentially wiping out humanity, much like the dinosaurs. However, the businessmen and politicians controlling the scientific community are confident, as they have an effective vaccine. This vaccine not only allows them to fight the aliens but also gives them the power to dominate them, ensuring that they remain in control of the world. Meanwhile, Struckholt is worried about Mulder's persistence and orders that the FBI agent be eliminated, along with Kurzweil, who knows too much. Mulder and Scully receive the coordinates for the location where the fossilized bones were discovered and set off to investigate. They don't find anything suspicious, just a new playground. Eventually, the agents realize the grass is artificial, prompting them to question a group of teenagers. From their interrogation, they learn that several trucks left the area less than an hour ago. They follow the trucks but end up at a crossroads, unsure of whether to turn left or right. Trusting his gut, Mulder decides to continue straight down the unpaved road. That night, they reach a dead end, and it seems Mulder made a mistake, but they soon spot a train with white trailers that must have come from the trucks. Realizing they're on the right track, they follow the train and discover a secret laboratory hidden behind a cornfield. The agents sneak into one of the larger buildings, but it's nearly empty. A low hum fills the air, but they can't figure out the source. Suddenly, doors open, revealing a lab filled with millions of bees. The agents narrowly escape the facility, avoiding bee stings, but as they make their way out, several helicopters are waiting for them. Mulder and Scully attempt to flee through the cornfield and notice that the helicopters vanish as soon as they return to the rocks. The next morning, Scully heads back to Washington for a meeting to determine her future. She tries to present new evidence about the explosion, but the committee dismisses the bees and fossils as irrelevant. During the meeting, it's revealed that one bee had hidden behind Scully's collar, posing a serious threat to her. Meanwhile, Mulder meets with Kurzweil to fill him in on the situation. Kurzweil theorizes that the corn and bees are being used to spread pollen that could infect humanity within hours. This rapid viral spread would be devastating, but only a select few would be able to protect themselves. Mulder soon realizes they're being watched, signaling that both he and Kurzweil are in grave danger. After the meeting, Scully is sent to another state, but she decides to resign from the FBI. She's done everything she could to protect Mulder, even though she believes he's naive and obsessed with the alien issue. Originally assigned to watch him, she's now exhausted and ready to retire. Mulder and Scully, now deeply sympathetic toward each other, share an embrace. Mulder decides to kiss her, but just as he moves in, she's stung by a bee. As she loses consciousness, Scully describes her symptoms and realizes the bee has injected her with a dangerous virus. Moments later, emergency services arrive, but it's not the real paramedics. Instead, it's the agents from the emergency agency, who abducted Scully and shot Mulder in the head. Luckily, a minute later, real paramedics arrive and manage to save him. Although Mulder was shot in the head, the bullet merely grazed his scalp, leaving him with only a minor injury. Some time later, Mulder wakes up in a hospital, realizing that Scully has been taken by people who plan to use her as part of their experiment. The smoking man has taken her, and Mulder is the only one who can help. With surveillance on him, he asks another agent to pretend to be a wounded patient. After successfully leaving the hospital without being followed, Mulder heads to meet Kurzweil. Unfortunately, the influential businessman and his men find and execute the scientist before Mulder arrives. Mulder doesn't meet Kurzweil at the cafe, so he steps into the yard and spots the businessmen. The old man suggests they take a ride and promises not to harm Mulder. He hands over a vaccine and coordinates, claiming that Scully is at the location. The businessman admits that all of this is part of a government plan to assist aliens in colonizing Earth. The vaccine is the only thing that can stop it, and he gave it to Mulder because he doesn't agree with the smoking man and Struckhold. Mulder learns the shocking truth, that the aliens haven't just been visiting Earth but have been living here for millions of years. Throughout different eras, they've gone underground to survive, emerging like a virus to take over the planet. But for the first time, they have assistance, which could trigger a global catastrophe. After confessing, the old man kills the driver and lets Mulder leave unharmed. But as the businessman gets into his car, it explodes. 48 hours later, in Antarctica, Mulder arrives at the coordinates but finds nothing resembling a secret base where Scully is being held. Climbing a mountain, he spots a laboratory about a mile away and hurries toward it. Along the way, he falls into the snow and ends up in a ventilation shaft, which allows him to sneak into the secret base. Inside, he discovers hundreds of cryochambers, with people being used as hosts for alien embryos. Meanwhile, the smoking man finds a snowmobile and realizes Mulder has infiltrated the base. He orders his men to find and eliminate the agent before he ruins their plans. Once inside the base, Mulder realizes the underground facility is enormous. Using binoculars, he spots a capsule that he believes contains Scully. After making his way down, he only finds her belongings, realizing she must be in one of the cryo chambers. In a nearby section, he finds Scully and breaks through a thick layer of ice to free her. Before doing so, Mulder injects her with the vaccine the businessman gave him. Since Scully was connected to a device, the vaccine enters her bloodstream and system, causing a critical malfunction. The scientists now understand that a catastrophe is imminent and begin an urgent evacuation. They assume Mulder is doomed and won't survive, so they decide not to pursue him. The smoking man and his men quickly leave the base on snowmobiles, knowing that it will soon be destroyed. Mulder gives Scully his jacket and tries to revive her, desperately trying to escape the lab. As they make their way out, she stops breathing, but Mulder performs CPR. The situation grows worse by the second as the cryo chambers stop cooling. Hundreds of angry and hungry aliens are about to break free, and the agents are running out of time. Mulder pushes Scully into a ventilation shaft and tries to climb it after her. One of the aliens breaks through the ice and grabs his leg, but Mulder manages to fight the creature off. The couple emerges from the ventilation shaft onto the surface, with the aliens chasing them now falling behind due to a burst of hot steam. The lab begins to collapse, and everything starts sinking underground. The ice cracks, and they have only a few seconds to reach a safe zone. At one point, it seems like they're about to fall, but they're suddenly pushed back up. It turns out the base is actually an alien spaceship that didn't explode or sink underground but instead took off on a free journey through space. Sometime later, Mulder and Scully return to work. She manages to provide new evidence, which leads to their reinstatement in the special department. Meanwhile, politicians and businessmen continue gathering everything necessary for a mass infection. They're transporting tanks disguised as corn oil and have burned down the plantations to cover up their tracks in Texas. Law enforcement dismisses the incident as just another virus outbreak, but Mulder and Scully know the truth. They will stop at nothing to find the aliens and prevent the colonization of Earth. At the same time, the smoking man and Mr. Struckhold continued their operations with cornfields and bees, but now in the deserts of Tunisia. Someone suggests they either quit or deal with Mulder, but the businessmen dismiss the FBI agent, believing one person won't make a difference. In the film, government agencies withhold critical information about the alien threat, justifying it as necessary for the protection of the public. But is it truly justified to hide the truth when it involves the lives of so many people? Where do we draw the line between safeguarding society and suppressing the right to know and the freedom to choose? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, give a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next videos.